with a minute of silence for everyone who died in this war. Thank you. Today is day 398 of the war, of the full-scale invasion. The war is still there, and the terror is still present all over Ukrainian cities. Every morning, Ukrainians are thanking armed forces of Ukraine and everybody who fights and protects our land and European land from the tyranny of Putin. Today, we also would like to say thank you to Ireland and Irish people, because almost 80,000 Ukrainians have an opportunity to live a normal life in safety. We are very glad to see so many of you here in live, and we are also having a Zoom broadcast, and I hope those who joined us online can hear us well and follow the presentation. After a short introduction by us and our guests, we will dive actually into the numbers and data of the survey, and there will be an opportunity to ask questions in the room and after we finish presentation in the chat in Zoom. I'm very honored to represent Ukrainian Action in Ireland. We are an organization that was set up by highly professional, dedicated, and passionate Ukrainian and Irish volunteers a year ago with the goal to help Ukraine. And our mission is to be the Ukrainian voice and action in Ireland. Sometimes it's very difficult to group and describe everything that our volunteers are doing, but we try to group it along the three main priorities. First, we want to contribute to the integration of Ukrainians into the Irish society. Secondly, we work to advance Irish-Ukrainian cultural and educational collaboration. And finally, we work to provide humanitarian and life-saving relief to Ukrainians who are experiencing hardship. This survey today is also an important part of our work in advocacy and representation of Ukrainians here in Ireland. The survey today and the event today would not be possible without support and participation of our dear partners and our team. That's why we would like to acknowledge them from the very beginning of this event. First of all, I would like to say thank you to our survey team leader, Olena Redrugina, and Ukrainian Action Management and Communication teams who worked days and nights to make this survey a reality. Thank you. Secondly, to all those people who contributed to the survey and who helped us to share and reach out to people all over Ireland. It's our partners from Ukraine Civil Society Forum, United for Changes Initiative, moderators, and different chats all over social media. We also want to thank Untold Ukraine Initiative for providing us with the exhibition of the touching paintings and pictures of children that were painted in Ukraine during the heavy bombing of our country last year. And the kids who draw them were actually in the bomb shelters. So if you haven't seen the exhibition, we are inviting you to have a look during the coffee break. And of course, our special gratitude goes to the management and the team of Guinness Enterprise Center, this beautiful location that we are in today. And thank you very much for hosting us and for making this event possible. Today we have two special guests, and we have an honor to have at our event Her Excellency Ambassador of Ukraine to Ireland, Larysa Herasko. Her attention to the Ukrainian people in Ireland, her presence, dedication, and hard work is admirable and speaks for herself. We in Ukrainian community are extremely lucky to have you as our ambassador, and we in Ukrainian Action are very lucky to cooperate with you on the events that are important to our community here. So I would like to invite Ambassador to say a few words. Thank you.
Anya, thank you for your warm words. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am delighted to be here today on the presentation of the results of the second, actually, survey conducted by Ukrainian Action in Ireland. I would like to say a few words about our organization. One, I would say, of the most active organization. Ukrainian Action is a new, powerful organization that Ukrainian volunteers established in Ireland in response to the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. Despite the challenges faced during the war, they are reliable partners, and their activities are important for the embassy, for our embassy, for the Ukrainian community in Ireland, and not only, and for Irish government as well. In cooperation with our Ukrainian embassy, Ukrainian Action in Ireland organized the public gathering dedicated to 1 year since Russia's full-scale invasion of our country began, and the Independence Day march past years, and other peace marches. In addition, Ukrainian Action launched the activity of the Ukrainian Community Center, and which is very important for our community. At least our community now, I would say, has a home in Dublin. Action shares useful information on social networks that introduce Ukrainians to Ireland and help them to adapt better to the new country and the new reality. Ukrainian Action voices the most pressing issues and advocates their solution for Ukrainians in Ireland. This organization is the only Ukrainian organization in Ireland, and as far as I know, in other EU countries, that conducted such a survey and has such a scale of involvement of people. So as far as I know, 10% of Ukrainians in Ireland took part in this survey. This survey helps the embassy, first of all, better understand the life situation among Ukrainians under temporary protection in Ireland from various and even the most remote cities in the country. And I'm sure not only helps our embassy to better understand the situation with Ukrainians, but for the government of Ireland as well. It's very important for all of us. This information, the results, I mean, of the survey, helps us to see the problems of our compatriots face and how we can better help them. I would like to express my gratitude to the Ukrainian Action teams for their efforts to ensure that Ukrainian nationals get all the necessary assistance and support. And last but not least, I would like to thank Irish people and government, Irish government, and all organizations, Ukrainians and non-Ukrainians, Irish organizations, NGOs, for your help and for your support and assistance of our Ukrainians here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. It's our honor. And we are also very lucky and grateful to establish a very good communication and collaboration with the government department for children, youth, integration, disability, and equality. I apologize that I used the word in a different order, but we really hope that the outcomes of the survey will be useful for the policy making, for making effective policies in regard to the welcome and integration of Ukrainians here in Ireland. And today we have another special guest. It's Nicola, the head of data and analytics unit of the department. And we would be very glad if you could say a few words.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Your Excellency, for your words. A special word of thanks to Olena, the survey team leader and the founding member of Ukrainian Action in Ireland. So I'm delighted to be here today and very much looking forward to the presentation of the results later on. I was very moved looking at the pictures of that the children drew from the bunkers outside, and if you haven't seen them, I urge you to have a look once afterwards on the coffee break. Really moving. So I just want to say a few words about the reason I'm here today to represent the Minister and the department. So as per the slide, I head up the data and analytics unit in the Department of Children, Equality, Integration, Disability, Integration and Youth. And since last March, so since March 2022, I've been working with Ukrainian data. So what does that mean? In practice, it means I've been making sure systems are in place so government has access to data on how many Ukrainian people are arriving here, how many are getting temporary protection status, where we're accommodating them, where people are living, and other administrative data that we need. And this is crucial so government has information so we can try our utmost to do what we can to serve the immediate needs of the people arriving here fleeing from the war. But it does not tell us the day-to-day story of what life is like for people like some of you here in the room who are fleeing a country or setting up a new life. It doesn't tell us about your aspirations. It doesn't tell us about your concerns or your hopes or how you're getting on. So that is why when Olena contacted the department, we were delighted to be able to help with this survey. So not just my department, but we reached out across other government departments and worked with other government departments and fed in questions to the survey, looking at areas where we need, looking at areas of where we could look for further information. So we know over 78,000 people have arrived from the Ukraine and got temporary protection status here since March last year. But the survey, it's telling us the real life stories behind that number. It tells us how people are finding the language, is it a barrier or not? It's telling us how people, how they're finding health services for them, for their children. It's telling us whether people are finding education for their children, how they're getting on. And it's telling us how people are integrating and settling into their new communities. So as a statistician, I was delighted to see the high response rate. It's been answered by 10% of people, of Ukrainians that are in Ireland. So that's nearly 8,000 people, including children. I'd be delighted if all my surveys had such a high sample size and such a high response rate. It's fantastic. And it's an excellent sample size, and it really provides us with a robust and scientific data that can inform our work across government. This type of evidence base is crucial in helping us to respond to the needs of our new Ukrainian neighbours, colleagues, students and friends. It's of great benefit to a number, if not all, government departments, as well, of course, to the wider community, as it points us in the direction of where our efforts need to be redoubled to ensure the successful integration of Ukrainian people. So thanks again for the invitation here today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the survey results in detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. It was really incredible words about the survey. And so finally, I would like to invite and give the floor to Olena Redrugina, our team leader of the survey, to present the survey. And as I mentioned before, after the end of the survey, we will be collecting your questions here in the room and also with the Zoom audience. So also the outcomes of the survey will be published on our website and in social media. So please make sure that you're following us.
Thank you, Anya. Hello, everyone. My name is Olena, and I'm about to talk to you about a lot of numbers, graphs, charts within the next 45 minutes. So I apologize in advance for that, because there will be a lot of information, but we've gathered all of it, and I really want to share it with you. First of all, I want to explain why Ukrainian Action started to do surveys. Since the very beginning, we realized that it's key for us to be a voice of Ukrainians in Ireland. And for that, we understand that we live in a data-driven world. We needed more than just the stories. We needed the data behind those stories. That's why we launched our first survey in May 2023. We asked people about their needs, about their experience, and we were the first organization who did it in Ireland. Going forward, we've established other projects that allow us to get feedback from people directly. This is Ukrainian community centers in Rathmines. There are various rallies for peace, anti-war protests, different cleanups, cultural events, hikes. So we, as part of Ukrainian Action, we interact with lots and lots of refugees. And we hear their stories, but we also have the data. So we are in a unique position to combine insights that we get from talking to people and numbers. So we in unique position to combine qualitative and quantitative and present it to you. Just a little bit of technical details. The data collection method was online questionnaire, and a period of data collection was only 12 days, 27th of January till February. Target audience was Ukrainians in Ireland who found protection from war. Distribution method, we used various ones. So of course, the primary one was social media, but we also tried to share it as much as possible through communication channels that are accessible to Ukrainians, Telegram chats. We had a YouTube video where we encouraged them to respond. We asked people through personal messages. We've printed QR codes and put them in the places where we know there are lots of Ukrainians living. So we've turned every stone, and you will be able to see the results in numbers of that. The language of questionnaire was Ukrainian, because as far as we know, all Ukrainians understand Ukrainian. And then language of responses were Ukrainian, Russian, and English, and we processed all of them. So let's look into demographic of the survey. So we've got 4,233 adults that responded to our survey. And those adults represented 3,665 children. So overall, we have almost 8,000 people. So this survey represents almost 8,000 people. If we talk about people who requested temporary protection, that would be 10% of all Ukrainians that received temporary protection status in Ireland. But since we're monitoring the data from Central Statistics Office, we know that not all of them are residing in Ireland at the moment. So if we talk about people who are actually Ukrainians about living in Ireland, that's even bigger percentage. That's 12% of people who live, of Ukrainians who found protection from war and live in state. A bit more demographic information. If we look into the kind of gender and the detail of the respondents, almost half of them children, 42% women, 11% men. If we cross-check this with Central Statistics Office, we have men underrepresented in our survey. Again, we had this with our first survey, so that's an area for improvement for us. We will encourage men to respond a bit more during our next one. If we look into the respondents' age, we can see that majority of people who responded to our survey are of age 30 to 45. And we noticed last time that there was a bit of underrepresentation of pensioners. So this time we made sure we asked Ukrainians to help more elderly Ukrainians to fill the survey. And we are delighted that we have more responses from that category. In regards to family status, 37% are in partnership and are united with their partner. And then 24% are separated. 39% do not have a partner or are widowed, not in a relationship. This data is very much similar to the distribution we had in 2020, so there's no change compared to the first survey. And then number of children, you can see that 54% of respondents have children. Most of them have one child, then some of them have two children, and 6% have 3 or more children. And what's important to say by children here, we mean people under 18 years old. 99% of respondents have temporary protection status in Ireland. So basically this line shows us that we've reached our target audience. Only 1% was people with different status, but 99% of people are people with temporary protection status. This shows us, this graph shows us the territorial distribution. We've got most responses from Dublin, Kerry, Clare, Cork, Galway. And then the least responses we have from Monaghan. So that shows that we covered every county and we have minimum 18 votes from even the little ones. So now the demographic is done. Let's look into the insights. First section we called Why Ireland. So first of all, let's take a look at this graph, which shows us when people arrived to Ireland. So as you can see, among our respondents, almost half arrived in February or spring. And then with time, that number decreases. In the dark blue color, you can see the percentage of people out of entire Ukrainian in Ireland refugees population that chose Ireland as their second country for temporary protection, which means that they didn't come from Ukraine, they came from a different country. And as you can see, the number of those people is decreasing. So it used to be almost 3%, now it's 1%. However, if we look at the amount of people that arrive within this period, so for example, amount of people arriving in autumn or amount of people arriving in winter, we see that the percentage increases. Percentage of people that arrive from other countries and that receive temporary protection status in Ireland after they received temporary protection somewhere and probably gave it up. So just to be clear here, I know it's a bit complicated, but first graph shows us that the number of people decreases. But then if we take it in percentage, then percentage improves. So this slide shows us where people received their first temporary protection if it was not Ireland. And we had a question there in our survey where we've asked people to just share a bit more with us about why they came there, what was their experience. And the story of people arriving to those countries is very, very consistent. They didn't think it through. They just ran away from something, not towards something. They had someone waiting for them there. They had friend or co-worker or just they visited that country, so they kind of knew how it looks like. So there was no well thought plan. There was just need to get out of Ukraine and get somewhere. And then when people realized that the time is passing, they started to face challenges and they decided to move on to Ireland for following reasons. First of all, totally unknown language. As you can see that only UK has English language spoken as their national language, and the rest of countries have their own national language for which Ukrainians were not prepared, and it was extremely hard for them to navigate. Also, without language, of course, it's very hard to find any employment opportunities. Bureaucracy without language is a challenge as well. Some regions still have support to pro-Russians, and people were struggling from that. And also some countries are just too close territorially to Russia. So they said that they moved to countries bordering Ukraine because they were going to go back soon. But then Russia constantly issues threats to Europe. They constantly threaten Europe. So they thought that they should move further away. And then on the positive note, one of the reasons why they decided to move to Ireland from other country is family reunion in Ireland. So this is when people were separated by the war and they happened to be in different countries, and then they decided to reunite and they chose Ireland. We've asked all of them what was the main reason why they chose Ireland, and 73% of them said that English, being the main communication language, is the reason why they chose Ireland. Second best reason is that it's because it's very far away from Russia, and most top three, reason number 3 in top 3 is state support with accommodation, for which Ukrainians are very grateful. There's also other reasons, and interesting ones among of them is that people mentioned similar history and mentality. Many people like mild client. Many of them appreciate very kind and understanding people of Ireland. And also we have this category of responses that are just singing love songs to Ireland. My husband always loved Ireland. He celebrated St. Patrick's Day every year. So for that respondent, apparently there was no choice rather than to come here. But then we have other group of respondents who did not think it through. Just we came here by accident. We were running away. We met someone from Ireland and they helped us to get here. So God directed me and my family, one of the respondents said. So now we're moving on to the section of our presentation where we'll talk about their integration. So now they arrived here. How well are they integrating into Irish communities? So first of all, let's look at their documents that they received here. Again, in gray here, you see comparison with our previous survey, because documents was actually a highlight and kind of a focus of our previous survey to find out what documents people received or not. So now we're just validating this result. And as you can see, we have significant improvement in numbers, in percentage in relation to bank cards that were issued to Ukrainians in Ireland. There's also improvement on medical cards. However, following our first survey, it looked like with medical cards, it was going this way. It was just a bit slow. That's why the number was low. But with bank cards, Ukrainians actually faced some challenges where their proof of address wasn't suitable for banks. There were other issues. So that looks like that challenge is now sorted. So thank you very much who made it happen. Accommodation, we all know that accommodation is a top challenge, so we did not make accommodation a priority of our survey, but we couldn't, of course, just ignore it. So there will be only one slide on it. 55% of our respondents live in hospitality type accommodation, and then every third person lives in a host provided accommodation. If we look further into this data, I want to also add data from 2022 here. We can see that there is different types of hosting accommodations that we have. So the second line here is people live with hosts that were unfamiliar to them before the war. So those are Irish people or people of other nations who welcomed Ukrainians to their homes in Ireland. That is 10% of our respondents, and compared to the first survey, that number decreased. Also, on the fourth line over here, number of people who lived free of charge or for symbolic fee in separate housing provided to them from a host, it decreased as well. However, the number that I would like to attract your attention to is number of people who are renting their accommodation at the market price. It improved. We have 7% of our respondents who figured out complicated rent market and managed to rent their place. So I think this dynamics is very positive, and we were very happy to see that. Other numbers, if there is no error, means that they are correlated with the previous surveys. They're aligned, and we still have 3% of people who live in gyms, tents, monasteries, schools, so in those types of accommodation. In relation to accommodation satisfaction, Half of our respondents are very satisfied with their accommodation. And overall, we can say that more than 90% of our respondents are quite happy with it. And if we look at those who are not happy, that is very much correlated with those who are living in those gym stands, etc. So there is very clear correlation there. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about transport, because people need to get places to get integrated. Half of Ukrainians use public transport, and then 33% meant that they walk to the places they need to be. So this question was about their primary way of transportation. 15% of Ukrainians own car, and this is their primary source of transportation, and then 3% own bicycle and use it mostly. Last time when we did our survey, people mentioned to us that they have issues with transportation. That's why this time we looked in more detail, and we actually have a question of what kind of challenges people experience with transportation. But because this presentation was too long, I couldn't include it here, but we have a 70-page report on our website, maybe not right now, but we will definitely have it by the end of day today, that covers this detail and some other details of this service. So if you are interested in the topic of transport, you will be able to find more data on that in our full report on the website, ukrainian.action.ai, and it will outline the challenges people face with public transport and more details. Moving on to English. Of course, language is a key criteria to integration of Ukrainians in Ireland. This graph, again, in gray, it shows data from 2022. In blue, it shows data, current data. So we can see, if we look at the first pair of lines, that amount of people who speak very little English, like very basic, it decreases. So, and then we see increase in people who speak pre-intermediate or intermediate. So basically people started to learn, they're getting better in English. Still, every third respondent speak English above average, so more or less clear, and they can get around, they can have a job. So this is only every third respondent. However, Ukrainians are actively trying to change the situation. So this is quite a lot of information, but we can say confidently that 84% of people are studying English. And I would like to attract your attention to line in yellow here, the face-to-face courses, 48%. So 48% of Ukrainians in Ireland, almost half, almost every second adult, attends face-to-face courses in Ireland. And Ireland made it happen. Thank you very much. This is a huge support. This is a huge support in their integration. This is a place that they can go once in a while, where they can interact with the teacher, where they can interact with each other. So this is amazing. Thank you very much. And we see that that number improved over time. So compared to 2022, it improved. So thank you very much. There is still people who are, the other yellow line there shows that people still look for courses, classes. So there is still some number of people who are willing to have this education. And again, the trend there that the number of those people is decreasing. So thank you very much for that. This is an amazing dynamics. Next topic is employment. So this graph shows us the regions where Ukrainians are which percent of Ukrainians are employed in those regions. So funny enough, Monaghan, the smallest of our response rates, have the biggest rate. So apparently we just hit a group of people who have a job in Monaghan, and that's why 40% of them are here at the top of our list. But other responses, of course, come from Dublin, Wicklow, Kildare. If we talk about people who are looking for a job, most of them are in Donegal, Sligo, Mayo, Kerry, some other counties. So there is still some areas where people are really looking to get employment. Now we will go into conversation about employment a little bit further, a little bit deeper. So I would like to explain what you can see on this slide. So in dark blue color, you can see amount of people who have a job and who are not looking for another. So they're quite happy with their job. And we can see that number of those people increased by 7%. Then if you look at the other end of this graph, into the light blue, you will find people who do not have a job and who are not looking for one. And that number increased as well. We will look further at why it increased into the next graph. But what I would like to say is that the number in gray here in the middle, it represents people who are job seekers, people who do not have a job and they look for a job. So if you notice, those numbers correlate very clearly. So number of job seekers decreased. It was always almost 50%. Now it's 35%. So it decreased. But then we have increase in number of people who have a job, which again is an amazing trend. And also we have a number of people who are no longer looking for a job for various reasons. So let's look into those reasons a bit more in detail. I will also add here data from 2022. We're not comparing 100% like for like each option. So I would like to give you insights only those numbers below. So we have decrease of people who don't have a job and not looking for one in relation to circumstances, children or health issues. So number of those respondents decreased. We have, interestingly, we have 5% more people than we had in 2022 that said that they're not looking for a job because of their poor English. And when we read some comments in our survey, that is actually confirmed by people's stories. So this is a story where someone tried to find a job, where they tried to get it, and they realized that their current level of English is not good enough to get the job that they want, or to get any job maybe. So that number increased. And again, we're very happy to see that people are learning English, because it gives us hope that they will get to this place where they're happy to look for a job again. And then we have also 10% increase of people that are studying in Ireland, of students, or people who are studying online in Ukraine, but they live in Ireland. There is way more information on employment in full report. We have all the other types of analysis there. So again, if you're looking for more data, for more details inside, you might be interested to check it out in the full report. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about medical services. So this graph shows us a health self-assessment by our respondents. And as you can see, most of them gave themselves a 4, which is still pretty good. And less than 10% of them said that this is not, their health is bad or poor. 2 out of 3 respondents interacted with medical services in Ireland. So they had experience with dealing with medical system in Ireland. 71% of them faced certain challenges. And I just want to mention that 30% did not have any challenges, which is again something to celebrate, because people navigated absolutely new medical system in the new country without any challenges. So this is great. However, the biggest challenge for Ukrainians is still they don't understand how to navigate it. So they don't understand how to get to the specialized consultant. Probably this is just because the medical system is quite different in Ukraine, and the waiting times are a bit different. So, but that is definitely a key challenge. And there's also other challenges that you can see here as well for your reference. Moving on, we have looked into sources of information and communication. We believe that it's a very important part of integration where people get information from. So most of our respondents get information from social networks, from Telegram chats, and from official websites. And there are also other sources of information. And then next graph shows daily communication of people. So who they talk to, who are their daily companions. And of course, top results are other refugees by circumstances. So this is where people are just live together in hotels or other types of housing. Of course, it's clear that family is the top one. But then 36% actually said that in daily communication, they have someone from Ireland. So they're getting new friends here. Every third Ukrainian has an Irish person in regular communication. So again, we see improvement here. People starting to get out of their shell and talk to and get acquainted to and integrate. This is more typical for younger people with better English. Of course, it's hardly a surprise. However, we like this trend a lot and we hope it will continue. In regards to challenges, we asked people what were their biggest challenges, and you can see the replies on the screen. 16% of them said that there's no difficulties. So just to make it a bit less boring, I thought I will add some comments there because we have, well, 4,000 something comments from each person on this question. So in relation to accommodation, one lady shared with us that everything is great compared to living in a war zone. But we stay with our hosts for more than a year now, and we feel that we need to move on, and we have nowhere to go. In relation to job search, there is still questions in relation how to navigate the job market. So this respondent shared that can't find what she wants or he, and then don't know what other options. So basically, just a bit stuck in this process. Childcare is a challenge. And after school activities and their absence, we will look into this a bit further. And then, of course, there were people who said, everything is just fine. Thank you very much. We're now moving on to a big section of our survey about children. As we saw on the first slide, 46% of all respondents are children. So there's going to be a lot of information here. First of all, let's take a look at the age distribution. 18% of our kids, of our respondents, are preschool age, and then a bit more than half primary school age, and 30% secondary school age. Interestingly, this is a very, the numbers are very, very similar to the one that we have in 2022, so there is no change in here. We asked parents, are their children happy in Ireland? Actually, this question, it came up from our discussions with the department, because we phrased it a bit differently, and our colleagues from department mentioned that it's okay to ask if they're happy. So thank you for that permission, and we did, and we find the insight extremely useful. 80% of children that came here to find protection from war are happy. And we think this is an incredible result. Those children run away from bombs, from danger, and they are separated with their home country. And they not only have place to live, have place to study, but they're also happy, according to their parents. This is amazing. Thank you. Of course, we are interested to look further into those other 20%, right? We want to know what's going on there. So broadly, we can split the results into two big categories. First category is all about home. Children miss home. They miss friends, teachers. They had lots of interests, lots of hobbies. Some of them said that they just love Ukraine. And then the other portion of the responses are about their present situation here. There were some mentions of bullying from children or teachers, or both in this case. There were lots of mentions of lack of personal space for children. This is where families are cramped in the same room, and especially teenagers find it very hard. Some children struggle to find friends, and then some children struggle with everything being temporary. They just want a decision, some kind of stability. So those were high-level views. And then if we look into more data, 57% of respondents said that language is the biggest challenge for their children to become happy. And this is what they struggle with mostly. And then there is also other reasons: friends, absence of extracurricular activities, after-school activities, etc. There's also very interesting statistics, and it's a very clear correlation between their parents' future plans to come back to Ukraine and children's happiness. So 68% of children whose parents decided to come back to Ukraine are happy. And this number is the lowest between the other ones. So 76% of parents who don't have specific plans, those children are happy, 76%. And then the top number here, as we see, the parents who decided to stay. So we believe that this is probably a two-way correlation, because when parents see their children settling in here well, when they see them happy, it's easier for them to make a decision to stay. And then when children are unhappy, when they struggle, of course, parents think that they might just go back and bring them to a place where they could make them happy. So we think this statistics is very interesting. Moving on to education. 99% of children in the school age attend in a school. Great results, right? Wait a second, we'll look further into details. Actually, we checked which school they attend. Is it Irish school that they attend offline, or is it Ukrainian school that they attend online? And as you can see here, I will go line by line. 96% of primary school aged children attend Irish school offline, which is amazing, which is again something to be very thankful to Ireland. This is brilliant. That number drops when it comes to secondary school age to 89%. And then if we look into the number of children who still study in Ukrainian schools, it's 45 and 56% accordingly. So when we combined all those numbers, we found that 43% of children currently study in two schools, Irish school offline and Ukrainian school online. So that is a lot. Of course, there is a little bit correlation with happiness. Children that are studying in one school are a little bit happier than, than the ones studying in two schools. Hardly a surprise, right? Shocking. So with that, we understand that there is many reasons that prompt parents to do this, to facilitate this with their children. However, there is one very prominent one. This is where we can combine our observation with our data. We normally have lots of questions how Ukrainians can proceed their education. So those who are already studying, or those who will have to graduate this year and study their education. At the moment, there is no guidance available into how children can proceed their studies. So we understand that parents then choose Ukrainian education because that's more familiar path, and maybe some of them choose to. But what could help here is if we could please have some clear guidance into how Ukrainian children, some of them with Ukrainian only documents, but they live in Ireland, how can they continue education in Irish colleges and universities? That would be a great help to have this clarity. Moving on, let's look into the after-school activities, because again, this is a factor that could potentially take their mind off, take children's minds off some heavy topics and kind of give them some light in their life. We found that only very little percent of children have more after-school activities, and then 27% of them have the same amount. However, 2 out of 3 kids have less after-school activities. And again, clear correlation with happiness. Children who are doing more hobbies, who have more after-school activities, they are more happy. Children who have the same, they're again relatively happy. And then there is a little drop when we talk about children who do less of the activities. Now, if we look into the reasons, I thought that 2 schools would be the reason why they're not doing anything extra, but no, actually lack of free time is only 9%, and this is here somewhere close to the bottom of this list. Top reason is there is no applicable or interesting or relatable activities or available places for after-school activities, or there is a very long distance to cover and lack of transport to those places. So there is definitely need for those activities from Ukrainian children and their parents, and hopefully there's something that can be done about this. I also want to add a little bit of observation here as well, because from everything you've heard about children, it's hard for them. It's really hard for some of them. And in Ukrainian Action, we launched last year a project where we wanted to gather all the qualified Ukrainian psychologists under one roof, and we managed to do it. So that project gathered some number of psychologists, but unfortunately, the number of them is still very, very small. And the number of psychologists among Ukrainian psychologists in Ireland that work with children, it's just only very few people, and they're always fully booked. So in Ukrainian Action Ireland, through all those challenges that we mentioned for you, through community centers, through other sources, we regularly receive requests to recommend support for children for their mental health. And unfortunately, we can't help them because there is just no availability. And leader of that project, Katerina, she said that actually parents are significantly more likely to ask for help for their children than for themselves. So they will be very open for that help. But unfortunately, there are no programs available. Now, when we say that, I understand that we might just not know about those programs. So if they are available, please let us know, and we will be able then to direct Ukrainians towards them. But again, what could help is please some access to mental health support for those children who struggle to get through their circumstances, for those children who find it really hard. And I want to add here one story from a lady. She left us a very long comment. She was saying, and it started so positive. Everything's so great. Everything's so good. We've rented our place. We have our jobs. I have a job. My husband has a job. My elder kids have a job. Just this little problem. My young teenage son is really depressed and he needs help. And ideally, if you could please make it from school so that he doesn't see me as a traitor. So again, we need to be really, really careful because those kids, they came with parents and parents is their rock. So we need to be really careful about how we access those children to get them help. But again, this is something for consideration. Moving on, let's look into how parents themselves are open to the topic of support. And again, in gray here, we see numbers from 2022, and they're not changed much. Half of them think that they do not need it. And number of people who are looking for it, it's here in yellow, it's increased a little bit, tiny bit, but it's still, people are looking for help and don't have it. And only, as we can see, only 7% of people are actually getting help one way or another. 24% just don't know if they need it. There is also this other question on impact of war. We just needed to understand where our respondents come from. And this lists just real situations that happen to Ukrainians. And as you can see, first line, top of the list, we have significant increase of people who came from areas where the infrastructure is very damaged or destroyed. And again, it's hardly a surprise for anyone who follows the news because there were, like, this winter was very hard for Ukraine. And then you can see other numbers here as well, 43% near or where military actions happened. And then we have 16% of people who live in Ireland and their accommodation is just damaged or destroyed. And then 80% of people, again, number of people who did not suffer any of the listed challenges, it decreases, and longer the war goes, we will have more people impacted. Now, moving to the question that I know that is of a big interest. And Ukrainian Action in Ireland actually is the only organization in Ireland who dared to ask this question, because as Ukrainians, we have people who fled the war to Ireland in our team. So we know exactly how it feels. So we know how to phrase it in a way that people want to talk to us. And we made extra sure that the way we worded all of those questions, that they felt like sharing their experience. And as you can see, 4,000 people did. So I think we achieved our goal. Let's look into the numbers further. First of all, we asked people what can prompt them to go back. So is there a reason that they will go back to Ukraine? And even 87% of people said that yes, there is at least one reason that they will go back to Ukraine. And even, interestingly, even the respondents who said that they are going to stay in Ireland, 72% of them still were able to name at least one reason that will maybe make them rethink their decision. So, of course, the top reason, 73% of respondents said that the war must stop, not just stop, we must win the war. And then 55% say that their economy needs to renew. They need places to work. They need places to get money from. And then, of course, the recovery of energy infrastructure is a factor. And then 13% are not convinced. So for 13% of respondents, there is nothing can happen there that they will move back. More data is available in full report. This is a very, very busy chart. I will not stop about it I will not go through all of it. This graph is about sentiment. This is about what people feel about going back and what are their internal drive to go back. And as you can see, dark line here is people who want to stay, and then the blue line here is people who have no decision yet, and then the pale line is people who want to go home. But then if you will take a look, people who decided to go home, the pale blue line, the reason why they want to go home, top reasons are sensible. They are feelings, they are parents, they are love for Ukraine. They're missing their life. So even though they have accommodation in Ukraine, they're easier to navigate services, they have the social circle there, or maybe some of them have favorite job, all of that comes next. Top reasons is just the sentiment, they just want to go back. And then as you can see, even people who decided to stay, they still answer to those factors as well. So they're still definitely connected to Ukraine in a very strong way. Now let's get to the actual answer to this question. 41% of our respondents said that they want to remain in Ireland, that they've decided to do so longer term. And then 24% have no decision yet. Sorry, 24% are going to come home as soon as they can. And then 32% do not have a decision yet. Now, we will look into those three categories just in a minute. We did have other options in this survey, because those options just come again from our conversations with people. Many people mentioned that they are going to move to a different country. Or we all know very well that there are thousands of people who already returned home. Of course, those percentages are not representative enough, like number-wise, those people are not well represented in our surveys because they do not interested in Irish events, right? If they move on or if they've returned back. But we still have some interesting insights from those who did reply. So top reasons to move to a different country is that issues with the job search, even though English is good, but apparently this respondent faced a difficulty in finding an employment. And then, of course, accommodation crisis is a factor, and medical services were named several times as well. And then in regards to returning home, of course, it's still the same. Families waiting, never planned to be an immigrant, and just tired, just want to go home. Let's look into some correlations between plans of people to remain in Ireland and two other factors. So first factor we will look into is language. I will walk you through this graph. I know it's a lot. So if we look at the bottom line, we look at the people with poor English. And then further up we go, we are going all the way up to people who speak fluent English. So on the bottom line, you can see that the split between people who haven't decided yet, which is middle section, and people who decided to stay or decided to go back, it's almost equal. So people who struggle with English, the split is equal. But then further up we go, better people speak English, more they want to stay, and less of them are going to come home. But still, as you can see, 11% of those who speak absolutely fluent English, they still want to return. Interestingly enough, 30% of those who don't know is a very consistent number. And if we look at the data, this 30% is extremely consistent through all the other ways of slicing and dicing this information. So those 30% I really don't know. We proved it looking into it. And then if we can take a look into another factor is marital status. So up top here, you can see that people who are separated with their loved ones, they are less inclined to stay. You can see the dark line here, it's 26%. It's less than in the next two lines where people not in relationship and where people in relationship and living together, it's 45 and 48% accordingly, right? So if people are separated, they are more inclined to come back home and be reunited with their family. That was a very, very micro level of details. I would like now to go up a little bit and look into the results of our survey from a bit higher level. We established already that 90% of our respondents are healthy. We talked about that already. We had another questions where we asked our respondents, do they feel safe in Ireland? And 97% said, yes, 97% of people feel safe in Ireland. And of course, we have our famous last question in the survey. What would you like to say to Irish government and Irish people? And similarly, as with our first survey, there was an overwhelming gratitude from Ukrainians towards Ukrainian people and towards Irish people and Irish government. So I think this is an amazing achievement because people who are fleeing the war, people who had nowhere to go, they find their protection here, they're healthy, they're safe, and they're extremely, extremely grateful. As one of the respondents said, Ireland did everything for us, and then some more. And for that, on behalf of Ukrainian community in Ireland, I have a privilege and an honor to say thank you.